Hello and welcome to Mistakes Were Made. I'm Ajay Fry. This is the very first episode of my new podcast, and it's also the first and only take I'm recording of this introduction because this is a podcast about mistakes and learning from them, so I may as well include my own. Also, I'll use any excuse to avoid editing, and rights-free classical music to underscore whatever the hell I want. The format for Mistakes Were Made was in part inspired by the TIFU, or Today I Fucked Up subreddit, where people submit written stories of mistakes they've made anonymously. Most often, these short stories are hilarious, but sometimes they're more earnest and sincere, and occasionally they're quite serious, or even tragic. Whatever the case, I always find them compelling and relatable. Maybe that's because I've got 36 years experience making all kinds of mistakes. My original idea was to invite interesting people for a short interview before reading one of these anonymous stories together to hopefully inspire us to share some of our own stories of mistakes made in front of a live audience. That part might be a mistake. Maybe my guests would feel more comfortable talking privately. But this past summer, I overcame my fears of getting it wrong, and I booked a venue, invited interesting guests, and put on a live show because I thought it would be a great way to get back to doing the only kind of work I know how to do: talking to interesting people about themselves. So I'll be back after the live recording to offer some corrections for the mistakes made on stage, to present a word from our sponsor, which may or may not be real, and to offer a tease from the next episode of Mistakes Were Made. Now, let's head to Burdock Brewery on Bloor Street in Toronto on the night of Monday, August 5th, 2019. What you're about to hear has been to the best of my abilities mixed and mastered, but is otherwise entirely raw and uncut. Enjoy. In his novel Ulysses, James Joyce wrote, "A man of genius." Did I say it wrong again, Sarah? I nailed it. All right. I said Ulysses earlier at home. It's wrong. In his novel Ulysses, James Joyce wrote, "A man of genius makes no mistakes. His errors are volitional and are portals to discovery." I'm AJ Fry, and this is Mistakes Were Made. Joining me for my chat and personal reflection, Kiss 92.5's very own, damn it, Maurie, it's Maurie Sherman. Maurie, welcome.
Thank you so much. I brought my reserved from my chair seat.
Good.
Sign.
You see how quickly I wrote that down? Maurie, I think I spelled people's names wrong on their reserved sheets anyway. All kinds of mistakes tonight. And I wanted to know, why did you make the mistake of saying yes when I asked you to do this?
Oh, no. So you wrote, and I forwarded it to my husband saying, should I do this? And he said, well, it's about mistakes, and that's all you do, so you should.
I feel like I can ignore my list of questions and maybe jump in right there, because I know one of the most recent things that you did that upset your husband was an interaction with Prince Harry. So set up maybe...
I didn't even know you knew that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, of course. Everyone knows that. It was international news. But before we talk about that, maybe you should set up what it is that you do and how maybe we know one another. We got some Maurie fans in the crowd, Kiss 92.5 fans.
Oh, don't just cheer because you want to be heard on the podcast. We know each other. I mean, first of all, so I'm with Kiss 92.5's Roz and Mocha show.
Yeah.
Been doing that for 9 years. The show's been on for 10. But I've seen you at like a million junkets, on red carpets, and... just around town and stuff. So
you always have a GoPro on your head.
Like attached to a helmet, yeah.
Yes.
Because I sort of created that because then it sort of stands out and the celebrities will be drawn to you. I mean, not realizing that they'll think you're special and that's why. But it works.
Right, yeah. I mean, I've been right
Madonna's
next to you.
publicist was like, this guy's my favorite. Go talk to him.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, why not?
This is a hook.
Yeah.
So what happened with Prince Harry?
I really wanted a moment with him, and I knew that they weren't doing any interviews or any press.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's the only way that I can get to meet him is if I stand where all of the fans are, right? And have no microphone, nothing, and just be a fan, even though I was recording everything on my cell phone.
You went covertly into the fan zone where journalists are not permitted.
Yeah, I'm a fan too. Why not, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
lying.
Fair. Sure.
And so I was like gushing sort of half truth and half not to his people. Yes. Like, oh my God, I love this guy so much. And they were, okay, so maybe we'll bring him to you. We don't know. And then I guess they filled him in or whatever. And he's walking by. And you have a split second to think, what are you going to say to catch his attention? So I just start yelling.
Was this planned? Or was this a split second decision of what you said? Because what you said was pretty interesting.
Well, it was planned like the second before it happened.
Okay.
So, I mean, that counts. And I'm just like, I'd leave my husband for you. I'd leave my husband for you. And he comes walking over. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Worried he's going to accept?
Well, I mean, he's really, really smart and not answering anything that can be quoted, right? So I'm like, I don't know if you heard, I'd leave my husband free. And he's like, oh, how long have you been here? You know, not really answering anything. Yeah. And then I asked him, I go, when you travel, do you use your own shampoo or the hotel shampoo? To which he said, I don't use shampoo. But I thought about that, and I thought it's really, really smart because then we're not all going to go out and buy that brand because it's what he uses, or wonder what it is he travels with. So it's kind of smart.
He's a prince. He doesn't need shampoo.
Exactly. No, not at all. Yeah.
Radiant and magical on its own. So my father was actually in radio as well, and I thought for a long time that's kind of where my career would ultimately take me. He was a DJ traveling across the country for years before I was born, and then even for a few after. Was radio your goal? Did you want to be...
It's always what I wanted to do ever since I popped out of my mother with a microphone and said, "Good morning, Toronto." That joke always gets a laugh.
But you're in a producer role there as well, so how did you transition from behind the scenes to on air?
Once they realized this guy's an idiot, he should be on the air. He says really dumb things. So it works. I love the fact that we every morning go in and have fun and just to be idiots and entertain the city. You know, I mean, I'm horrible at math. I can't spell. I'm the worst thing to the schooling system. Like, because you look, this guy has a career, but he's learned nothing.
Right. I got kicked out of high school.
And look at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay in school, kids.
Yeah. Worked for 10 years.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what I'm doing, but we're having fun here.
Yeah.
What's your backup plan? Let's say radio dries up. What's your fallback career
I've always
thing?
wanted to drive a Subway. Not the sandwich, like the actual thing.
Yeah. Radio to Subway.
Yeah, I thought, I'm not kidding.
Would you be on the announcements yourself? Would you replace
those
that
are automated?
Yeah, but I hate that they're automated. It would be so much more fun if it was. I mean, you get a lot of bad people, but you get the occasional good one. There's some good bus drivers.
Well, the last time I saw a Subway driver, the door was open. He was sitting there doing his bills and writing letters or postcards or something. I'm like, I want to do that.
So, okay. You want it because it's an easy job.
Absolutely. You just
riding through the tunnels and doing the thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, Maurie, I feel like we've probably been talking for 5 minutes or so already. This is, again, my first episode of Mistakes Were Made.
Was this a mistake? Okay.
I'm going to check my watch right now, but I think it might be time for us to do this thing. So we're going to read some TIFU stories from Reddit. Are you guys familiar with TIFU and what that means? Today I fucked up. So these are stories
I was like, what does that stand for?
That are submitted anonymously on the subreddit TIFU. And we're going to read one together and then potentially talk about some of our own stories of screwing shit up.
How much time do you have?
Hopefully enough. Now, I brought a whole bunch of them. Do you want to grab one out of here at random?
Okay, and then you'll read it? Pick a card, any card? Yeah. This one.
Okay.
Buying a bottle of wine at the movies.
Oh, this one's adorable, actually. So
okay.
This will put us down an adorable rabbit hole. It's one of the only ones that I've actually read of the pack. I went to a fancy movie theater with a date and decided to buy a bottle of wine and asked for 2 glasses. The bartender says he needs 2 IDs, and I'm too lazy to go back to the seats to grab date's ID. So I told him I'm alone and was embarrassed to ask for just 1 glass. He was clearly sympathetic. Idiot me then tries to sell the story, and I continued on about how lonely I've been recently.
This guy's a genius.
He tells me he's off in a few minutes and insists on watching the movie with me.
Oh, no.
I try to fight it, but I could only argue so much without giving away the truth, and he insisted. So I texted my date what's happening, and we went back into the theater together. We sit a few rows in front of my first date. She has the stupidest grin on her face as we get settled. Turns out Jared, the bartender, is super cool and bought the 2 of us another bottle during the movie. After the movie, I thanked him for his gesture, and he didn't even ask for my number or anything. I think Jared was just a genuine guy trying to comfort someone. I met back up with my date in the parking lot, thankfully. She found the whole thing hilarious. I don't deserve Jared.
Aww. Okay, first of all, how did this guy not get in trouble for leaving his position and going in and sitting with this guy in the movie theater?
Maybe.
I mean, it got him out of cleaning other theaters or doing whatever it is he had to do, right? But this
said
guy's a genius.
The bartender?
No, the guy that went up and
Yeah.
that guy's a genius.
Have you had any good moves like that on dates? Have you like turned a bad date around?
I once made. Oh wow, I remember this. I once made a CD where I talked about myself, right? Because I was so tired of going on dates and talking about myself, so I would give them a CD going, just listen to this later.
And
I'm married.
what was the inspiration for that?
Fuck
up. Really, you're just going on so many dates, and you're like, this is a good idea if I give people something to take away.
Well, because then they could learn about me, rewind, fast forward. You know, I missed that part. Let's go back 30 seconds.
You really were cut out for radio. This is only a radio guy's idea. That's wonderful.
This is all about me.
Let's talk a bit more about your husband, because you almost made a big blunder. Like, maybe I'll set this up by saying I proposed to my wife at Disney World, which is, a lot of people picture, oh, you did that in like front of the Magic Castle. I decided not to go that way. I did it privately in our hotel room. But you had a very public proposal.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not a screw up at all. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it turned out well, but like that's risky.
Very risky, right? Well, I always said like if it didn't happen, I would never talk to him about it, and like if they said no, I'd never speak about it ever again, right? So just to dive right in, I proposed to Matthew on stage in Vegas in front of Mariah Carey because he said everyone turns to their husband going, screw you. So I said, because he said to me once, he goes, the only way I'll ever marry you is if you introduce me to Mariah Carey. He was joking, like, because he's like the biggest fan. And he's like, I'll only marry you if I get to meet Mariah Carey. I'm like, okay.
That is quite
this
the
is
feather
kind
to
of
keep in your
his
hat.
fuck up.
Yeah.
So it took a year to plan that, and in a way, it's on YouTube. Right. And every other website on earth.
How many times have you made international news now? Because the Prince Harry thing went around the world. Mariah Carey was picked up a lot of places.
Yeah, Prince Harry and Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Two.
Just the two. Okay. You got to get a third one.
the day is not over yet.
Yeah. So rule of threes in entertainment.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, so how long have you been married now?
Well, we've been together 12, married almost 3. Okay. Yeah. And we just found our third wedding anniversary gift because you do, first one's paper, second one is cotton, and the third one is leather. Right. Everyone goes to gay joke. No, we found a leather chair. We're going to split on that, so that's kind of cool.
Oh,
yeah.
That's lovely. So what are your plans for the rest of the summer? You got anything big coming up? You going any places?
Today we sat on the couch watching Forensic Files all day, so tomorrow who knows what's on.
But are you up and in the morning tomorrow for Kiss 92.5?
We are on vacation this week.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be up so early.
I lied to you.
Yeah, the whole reason... I have other guests who have other things. And I said, oh, Maurie's got to be up early on the show. Mistakes were made with this guy. Well, Maurie, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for being my first guest on Mistakes Were Made.
I didn't even get to tell you my actual story, which is great.
Oh, right. We skipped your story. Like, I was just wrapping it up because I thought maybe we're out of time, but... Oh, no, we do have time. Give it to me.
Like, I thought it
we
was
forgot about
okay,
Keanu Reeves.
So the thing in radio
is like a natural pause. I told you guys this would be rough.
You can always edit that, right?
Yeah, but I won't.
Oh.
I believe in honesty, so...
I don't. The thing in radio is whenever you pre-tape an interview or in television, if somebody swears, you beep it, right? Yeah, of course. So I made the mistake of not beeping something. So I went in to interview Keanu Reeves for the first John Wick movie. And I went in, I'm like, I'm going to impress this guy. I'm just going to, swear. It'll be awesome. So I said to him, I guess, tell me if I'm wrong. The plot of the movie is don't fuck with a man's dog. And he said, something, fuck something. Yeah. And I sent in the tape to our editors, play it. And they back then were like, okay, if Maurie sends it, we're going to air it. And it aired on the radio, me going, don't fuck with a man's dog. All I remember is just walking out of the room. I was just like, I'm gone.
Didn't get in trouble, though.
No, everyone laughed. Thank God.
I interviewed Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling together for Blade Runner 2049. And made the ballsy choice to just say, this movie was fucking awesome. thinking that would be hilarious. And then, of course, Harrison Ford just clapped back immediately with, "Can you say fuck in space?" It's like, Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling, they're so on.
Did anyone just completely blank out when he said Ryan Gosling and just wants to know what is he like in person and up close?
So I can tell you another Ryan Gosling story.
Please, we have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, this is your show, not mine. Go ahead.
I actually met him when I was a kid, auditioning up in Montreal. We were both out for an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And of course, Ryan Gosling is also originally from Cornwall, which is where my parents are originally from. So my dad was aware of this kid from Cornwall. He was like part of the Mickey Mouse troupe at that point, or had just landed that or something. And he introduced me to Ryan Gosling. And I have vague memory of that. He seemed pretty cool back then. We were just two 10-year-old kids around then. But then a few years back for Interspace was down at San Diego Comic-Con on the red carpet for Blade Runner 2049, and he's coming up to me, and I'm like ready to tell him the whole story of, oh yeah, we met like back doing Are You Afraid of the Dark at an audition, and before I could even get into whatever punchline I had ready for him, he's like, yeah, I never heard back about that one. Oh. Aced me right there. Damn it. Yeah. Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, of course, on that same press line. Famously, I was like, I'm just going to be honest with Harrison Ford about, there's a lot of people trepidatious about Blade Runner 2049. The original was a perfect film. Why make a sequel? So he actually comes up to me and I said, Mr. Ford, I hope you appreciate my bravery here, but a lot of people feel the original is a classic. Why should we do a sequel? Why is now the right time? Assure us that this is going to be good. And he just stared at me for a moment. Harrison Ford staring at you is a pretty scary thing.
No shit.
Yeah, Han Solo, Indiana Jones. Okay. But then he broke and he just put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, it's going to be fine. And he just launched into a fantastic answer.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Who is your celebrity you would not want to encounter again?
Carol Channing.
Okay, we're going to go like a little bit long. Why? Why Carol Channing?
Because I showed up at her hotel room, but she forgot that she okayed it. And so I walk in and she's like, who the hell are you and what are you doing here? Are you my driver? And I'm like, I'm not your driver. And she had no wig on at the time. She's just a scary old woman. I'm like, I want my mommy. So Carol Channing.
There you go. Well, for more of Maurie's antics, you got to tune in to Kiss 92.5 weekday mornings. Maurie Sherman, thanks for making some mistakes with me.
Well, big thank you again to Maurie Sherman for agreeing to be my first guest, and my apologies for cutting our interview so short. I made the mistake of booking 4 guests when 3 might have been more manageable, and I was so concerned about the show going over time for our live audience that I didn't spend enough time with you. I hope you'll be my first guest to return for another edition of Mistakes Were Made in the future. Also, I should apologize to Ryan Gosling. As my wife Zara pointed out after the recording, his reaction to my story of meeting at the Are You Afraid of the Dark audition wasn't to say, oh, I never heard back about that one. It was, in fact, I'm still waiting to hear back about that one, which is much funnier than what I gave him credit for on stage, and funnier than what I was planning on saying to him, which was something like, if you keep at it, maybe one day you'll also get to host a show on basic cable in Canada. Damn it, Ryan Gosling. Now, before I conclude this episode, I've got a sneak peek at next week's episode with Laura Vandervoort, just on the other side of this. This episode of Mistakes Were Made is brought to you by Regretfully, a new app to help you with all of your regrettable social media blunders. Beyond deleting your "it was just a joke" tweets from 2013 that could stand between you and that new job, Regretfully offers so much more. Have you found yourself struggling to explain to a coworker why you just like one of their photos at 1:36 in the morning where they're wearing a swimsuit from 3 years ago? Regretfully has a number of pre-written excuses and explanations ready to send at a moment's notice. Or if you're 17 comments deep into a political debate on the Facebook wall of someone you hardly even know and you're just realizing your plans for the day were entirely sidetracked as you spent 5.5 hours verbally sparring with one of their friends who you've never even met and you'd like to take it all back? With just one click, Regretfully will delete your comments along with your entire Facebook account because no one should be on Facebook anymore anyway. Regretfully. Don't just regret it. Regretfully it.
But the first gentleman I met, I was just cast as Supergirl, rolled up his pant leg and had my face tattooed on his calf. And he's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to run or like high five you. And then I think I said something like, you know you're going to the grave with my face on your leg. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, good on you?
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like my first fan encounter.
Then
Some
it's
other
all gotten
people
kind of better since then.
Well, some people give me Ziploc bags with like white cream in it, and I don't quite know what it is, and they just like leave it on the table. Yeah. One guy was like, for our children, and just like left. So. Guys, it's so much fun.
That was Laura Vandervoort, and for her full interview, you'll need to check back next Monday morning, the 10th of September, for the next episode of Mistakes Were Made. If you enjoyed this one, please leave a rating and tell your friends. I'm clearly still working on the format of the podcast, so I'd love your thoughts and reactions. Please send me any and all comments or criticisms. I'm AJ Fry. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the future.